First up, a Go Loud original from Newstalk.
Good morning, it's August the 25th. I'm Trish Laverty. And I'm Mairead Cleary, and this is First Up, all the news you need to start your day. On this morning's edition, CMO says a fully vaccinated electric picnic could go ahead.
Because we're ahead of the pack internationally at this point in time, that means we've gotten as far as we need to get. It doesn't.
Women are more likely to be jobless due to the pandemic, and tourists save a dolphin's life in Donegal. First up this morning, Laois County Council is urged to reverse its decision to not allow electric picnic go ahead this year. Our reporter Ben Finnegan joins me to discuss this. What's prompted this, Ben?
Good morning, Mairead. Well, Chief Medical Officer Dr Tony Holan said yesterday during a NPHET press briefing that from a public health point of view, he'd have no problem with the festival going ahead for vaccinated people. And he said there would still be concerns from a virus point of view. However, it's lower for the vaccinated people, of course. And exactly 3 weeks ago, Laois County Council rejected permission for this year's festival due to public health grounds. Now, Festival Republic, the organisers of the event, want 70,000 people at the festival in Stradbally from September 23rd to 26th. In its planning, it was penciled in for 3 weeks later than usual. That's to allow more people to get vaccinated and allow more time in general to get the precautions in place. They'd already suggested allowing only vaccinated people into the event anyway. And the words from Dr Tony Holan prompted a statement from the organiser Melvin Ben, who's from Festival Republic. He said, "We're asking Laois County Council to immediately reverse this decision to refuse the licence in line with the CMO's conditions that everyone attending should be vaccinated, exactly as we said a month ago, and change the decision, Laois County Council, and let's have the picnic. Tell us tomorrow," which is now today, and we will be on our way.
But there's still no guidance really on how live events such as Electric Picnic would be able to be held.
No, there isn't, and a meeting is to take place on Monday between the Taoiseach Taoiseach and Arts Minister Catherine Martin about reopening the live events sector. There's still a lot of anger among the industry after scenes around Croke Park on Sunday for the All-Ireland hurling final. Now today the entirety of NPHET will meet to look at the government's plan to ease remaining restrictions. That roadmap is set to be published before the end of the month. Now, how it will work today is NPHET will discuss the plan, then it will go to Cabinet Subcommittee on COVID, which meets on Friday, to go through the finer details. Then all ministers will meet on Tuesday to sign off on it, and it's expected it would include guidelines around the return to offices and live events. However, if EP gets the go-ahead from Laois County Council, that may set the precedent.
Ben Finnegan, thanks for that update on First Up. Gardaí have confirmed that they've launched a review of how they handle concerns from the public about people who have access to guns. The review was sparked after the jury at the inquest of Tig, Mark and Dermot O'Sullivan asked Gardaí to review their protocols after a relative raised concerns with them before the murder-suicide. The inquest found 60-year-old Tig and 23-year-old Dermot took their own lives after unlawfully killing 26-year-old Mark in Kinturk, County Cork last October. Former Assistant Garda Commissioner Pat Leahy says firearms licences can be revoked for public safety reasons.
But in that case, you have to have some evidence or some grounds. It's not as if an Garda Síochána can go in and just revoke a licence with no reasoning behind it or rationale or nothing to substantiate it, because there's always a course sent to the district court to appeal such a revocation. So it's never straightforward, albeit that it happens.
From today, schools are welcoming back students from their summer break. The majority of the COVID-19 measures in place will remain the same as the last academic year. However, CO2 monitors are being made available to help improve ventilation. Sinn Féin education spokesperson Duncan O'Leary says the government must ensure class time isn't impacted in the same way as previous years.
The last 2 school years, the disruption, the loss of learning, the impact it's had particularly on students, but also on staff as well, and particularly the most vulnerable students, those from disadvantaged backgrounds, special educational needs. We can have no repeat on that. So it's incumbent on the government to ensure that all measures are put in place to ensure that there is no disruption.
Women here are 1.4 times more likely than men to be looking for work since the COVID pandemic began, a new study has found. On the line is Dr Maeve O'Sullivan from Cork University Business School, who helped examine the data. Maeve, this study has been carried out over a long period of time. What does it show in terms of progress in access to employment for women?
In fact, we analysed data from 2002 to 2020, and there were some very interesting findings. So what we found firstly was that while employment levels grew steadily between 2012 and 2018, more than 40% of those jobs were created in sectors with low pay, limited entitlements and work uncertainty. So turning to female employment, that began to reduce from 2018. And indeed, in the first half of 2020, women did not return to part-time employment, as had been the case after the global financial crisis, but actually left the labour force in significant numbers. So when we looked at the data again in more detail, what we found that compared with men, women were over 3 times more likely to be inactive and not seeking employment than to be working. So that's quite a worrying finding from the research. So we also looked again at the data specifically related to 2020, and we found that COVID-19 increased the risk of women not being in paid employment, and they were twice as likely to be unemployed but wanting a job than being employed full-time.
So is it the age-old issues, Maeve, that particularly highlighted by COVID, that you've got childcare mainly coming down to women?
Yes, that's one of the key reasons we believe for these findings, Trish. So we know that 70 or 80% of overall care is done by women, and in terms of elder care, up to 90% of the unpaid care is done by women. And this data regarding 2020 relates to the first half of 2020. So that would have been the first lockdown. It would have related to when schools and creches were closed. So that's one of the main reasons. But we also know that the kind of occupations and the kind of sectors that women work in are those sectors that were initially hit significantly by the COVID pandemic. So we're looking at the healthcare sectors, the caring sectors, accommodation, food sectors as well.
OK, Dr. Maeve O'Sullivan from the Cork University Business School, thank you for joining us on First Up this morning.
Irish Army Rangers and senior diplomats have arrived in Afghanistan to begin evacuating Irish citizens. They'll work with their international counterparts at Kabul airport over the coming days to get 36 people out on flights. The government's Learjet has also been sent to the region as a contingency to aid efforts. However, it's understood it won't be entering Afghan airspace. Retired Air Corps pilot Kevin Phipps was involved in a similar evacuation effort in Syria in 2006. He says there's likely to be a number of stages to the evacuation.
What I would imagine is taking place is that team are trying to get Irish people who are obviously dotted around the city back to the airport and then onto a transport aircraft and taken then to one of the 3 locations, which I think the military operators are taking people to, which I think is Tashkent, Islamabad and possibly a couple of US bases in the Emirates.
And finally, a group of quick-thinking holidaymakers managed to save the life of a baby dolphin yesterday after it washed up on a beach in West Donegal. The group spotted a calf on Mahararoti beach yesterday afternoon and quickly wrapped the mammal in wet towels and seaweed to prevent it from becoming dehydrated. The Irish Whale and Dolphin Group have praised the group's resourcefulness. The beachgoers carried the fish to sea, where it happily took to his environment like a fish to water.
And that is it for First Up for today, the 25th of August. I'm Mairead Cleary.
I'm Trish Laverty. Please start your day with us again tomorrow.
In the meantime, you can check out all the news you need on newstalk.com.
Talk tomorrow.
Bye.